Hello everybody and welcome back to Stationeers. Okay, so last time we went through a second automation piece, so we now have our grow light automated, and hopefully if you've been following along you no longer need to turn this on manually, and so your potatoes, I'm hoping, are thriving. We've got our greenhouse to a pretty decent state, but I want to polish it off now, so we're going to go through a few little niggly things that we want to get sorted, and then after that we'll very quickly decorate the greenhouse, and then we'll have a nice somewhat finished room that we will just continue to expand and grow more plants in. So the first thing I want to go through is the atmospheric. So as you can see in here, we've got CO2, oxygen, nitrogen. We're happy with the CO2, we're happy with the oxygen, we're happy with the nitrogen, we are not happy with the pollutant. Now, the amount in here is honestly not really a problem. However, it's always good practice just to remove any pollutant, because if that slowly builds up over time, it shouldn't, but if it does, then you could get to a point where you could kill your plants and you also won't be able to breathe in here. Now, luckily, you do start with something that can help you with this. Go to your portable scrub package, get everything out, and if you deploy the scrubber, you can use this. So the way this works is it's basically a filter. So at the front you've got a battery slot. Well, it gives you a battery. So let's stick that in. You have the on button. You have a gauge that tells you kind of what the pressure is inside the device. You've got two filter slots. And then on the side you've got handles that you can use to pick it up. You've also got this lever. If you press this, anything that is held within the scrubber will be released into the surrounding atmosphere. So realistically, just don't hit that lever. So what we're going to do is the two filters that are supplied, we're going to stick these in here. One is methane, the other is pollutant. Methane we don't have in here, and realistically, you never want methane inside your base. Even a trace amount will cause your plants to suffer, and you cannot breathe any methane. So be very, very cautious of that. Also, if you have methane inside your base and you have oxygen inside your base, the smallest spark can cause it to catch fire. And that spark can be generated from anything, really. It can be generated from your welder. It can even be generated from just printing stuff in the autolathe, the pipe bender, etc. So realistically, you want to be making sure you ain't got any of that in. So what we can do with this is we can just turn it on and it will start to work. If we point at it with our tablet, we will see that it has pollutant inside of it. And the pollutant in the room is being reduced, right? So that as it is absolutely perfect. However, the problem with this is, A, you're going to need to remember to change this battery. B, you're going to need to remember to change the filters. Now, you're never going to get away from changing the filters. However, obviously, it's just something that you need to kind of remind yourself of. Now, I'm going to show you something you could do with this. So you should have started with a portable connector kit, which we haven't used. And what we're going to do is we're just going to place this somewhere. Let's place it where this oxygen is. So let's move you out of the way. Let's move our moldy eggs out of the way. And let's put our connector in here. And now orientation on this kind of matters for how the scrubber sits. So if we do place that, for example, and just see how that looks. All right, so we've got our filters there. So realistically, you don't want to be putting it inside a one block space because you're just not going to get it to work. You're not going to be able to reach the filters or the on button. So let's move this out of the way. Let's take this off. And I'm locking this and unlocking it down with the wrench. So it kind of works the same as a portable tank does. But yeah, if we put it here, give ourselves some space on this side, and then we lock it down. There we go. We can now get to the front of it. We can now get to the filters of it. We don't need to worry about that lever. Fantastic. Obviously, you don't need to do this. You don't need to lock this down. You could just fill this up, and then you could take it outside, and you could either hit the lever, which will empty it, or you could just drill it, and that will also dismantle it outside. If you dismantle it inside, any gas it contains will be released back into the room. So just take note of that. So how do we get this emptied? Well, like I said, you either take it outside, or because you've connected it to this connector, we can just pipe it outside with a passive vent. So if we grab a pipe and a passive vent, and quite simply find your gas connection. So you can see we've got one here that's liquid. You can see that it's green, so it's not connecting. But if you put it there, it's going yellow. And all we're going to do is we're just going to bring that pipe up. And if we nip outside, we see our gas connection there, our little pipe. I could just put my passive vent here. There we go. So now if we head back inside, you'll see there now it's connected to Mars. So we have some CO2, we have some oxygen, we have some nitrogen in there. But that is from outside, not inside. Inside is nice and clean. And this will just kind of work indefinitely as long as you keep the filters and the battery in check. Now, the battery, again, you're going to have to remember this. However, we've done something before that we can reuse in here. So head over to your workshop. And if you remember, we set up this power transmitter Omni. Now, this won't reach the greenhouse, but we can just make another one. So go to your electronics printer and print out a power transmitter. You're also going to need a wireless battery. I personally just always go wireless cell big. But I guess technically you don't need to, because it's just going to be sat in that scrubber. You could just go for the battery cell and it would be cheaper. I would really only use the large ones for anything that you're using. So tools, your suit if you really want to, drill, that kind of thing. Anything that is never going to leave your base, there is no point in using the big one, because all you really want to do is just get power wirelessly. So what we can do is basically anywhere on this red cable, because this is our greenhouse cable. I'm just going to place it here. Now there are other ways you could do this. You could connect this to the main power cable if you want to, but it might be quite nice to see how much power your greenhouse is using long term. So that's why we're going to do it this way. So I'm going to place my cable there. We're going to turn it on. So this will charge our own wireless batteries. But also we can now place a wireless battery in here. And it will charge that wireless battery. There we go. So you no longer need to remember to replace the battery in this. You only need to remember to do the filters. Now, there is... as part of the atmospheric kit that we've used before, there is a filtration option. It's what we're using outside for the CO2. You could quite easily place one of those in here, put the two filters inside of it, and then have it just suck out any pollutant. I'm not going to worry about it, because realistically, we're probably not going to get any more pollutant in here anyway. I have no power in my tablet. Let's do that. If we do, we'll just turn this on. We don't need anything more complex. There's no point in over building something if you don't need to. So that's all I want to do there. So we now have a portable scrubber ready to go should we get any nasties in this atmosphere. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover. The next thing I wanted to cover was actually processing our food. So up till now, if you're like me, you've been replanting the potatoes because I told you to, which is fine. That's what you want to be doing. But now that we've got what is going to be a full crop of potatoes, how do we then make them edible? Well, you can eat the raw potato. That isn't a problem. Or you can get the microwave that you started with, place it on your table, wrench it down, and you now have a place to cook potatoes. So all you need to do with this, and I haven't got a potato to show you, but all you would do is open it, place a single potato inside the microwave, close it, and then turn it on. You have to do it in that order. If this is already on when you place the potato in, it just won't work. Then you'd have to just turn it off and turn it on again. Also, as I mentioned, only place a single potato. Another thing we haven't done is we haven't set up a means for us to get water in our bottles. So, our water bottles here, you can see 23% and 0%. Well, you might be thinking, well, is this just pointless now? Well, no, you can refill these. You start with a water bottle filler. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, And for now, I'm going to place it here. This may move long term, but for now it's fine. And you'll notice that you can scroll. There's two different variants. All those variants is determining whether the power is at the top or the bottom versus the water being at the top or the bottom. It doesn't matter. It's personal preference. Just do whatever the hell you want. I'm going to place mine like this. And I'm going to have my pipe at the bottom and then my cable just coming around here. So let's get that cabled in. And then we're going to need some pipes. Now, we do have some insulated pipes, so let's just use these ones. Again, you don't have to use insulated for the floor, but I would always use insulated on the wall. But I'm just going to use insulated all here because it's what I've got. But now we have a water bottle filler. So I could turn this on. And now what we can do is we can grab two. We don't have to grab two. Oh, there we go. We've got two. Just place them inside. They will both now fill up. So this is option one. If you wanted to take a bottle of water out and about with you, you can. But if you head over to your workshop, go to your pipe vendor, search for drink, and print off a drinking fountain. It would appear that I'm out of silicon, so I'll be right back. After I've printed my drinking fountain, I'm just going to print out a few more pipes because I know I haven't got any. And I'm going to head back to my greenhouse. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my drinking fountain and I'm going to place it on the wall. Now I'm going to get that piped in. And I'm going to make sure I connect it to power. So the drinking fountain is basically exactly that. You can drink from it. There's a power button on the right hand side. Just make sure you turn that on. And what you can do is you can hold this button and you can drink. Now it has to fill all the way up to be able to drink. So you will have to hold it. But there we go. I'm on full water. Another option if you want to be quick is you can click Alt and then you can click. And that will be instant drinking. Personal preference, do whatever you want. Since we're just finishing a few bits in here, head back to your workshop. And I'm going to print myself off some lockers. I'm also going to print off a couple of doors. So as you already know, stuff in Stationeers doesn't despawn. This stuff will just sit on the floor indefinitely, and that's fine. However, some people don't like the mess. Now you can either leave it on the floor, we'll just call it floorage, or we can obviously get a little bit tidy and we can place some lockers down. We're going to place some lockers down just to get things off the floor, but again, normally I just kind of leave things on the floor, but I'll be tidy for you guys. We obviously have the fire extinguisher. You can, this is more of like just a piece of fun more than anything, but because we can, why not? Get your locker kit. And if you scroll, you should see a fire extinguisher holder. There we go. Fire extinguisher storage. I'm going to put this on the wall over here. Let's rotate it. We'll put it there. And now we can put our fire extinguisher inside. I never use the fire extinguisher. I always just open the canister. But screw it. There's a first time for everything. I'm also going to have a separate locker for anything that I class as consumables. So I'm going to class seed as consumable. Obviously, I'm not going to consume the seed. I'm going to consume what the seed gives me. And obviously, I've got the pill and some food. So I will put a locker over my table. And then I may as well have a separate locker for my seeds. Because why the hell not? Okay, we're nice and tidy. Now, the reason I told you to print some doors, or the reason I printed some doors, is because there is something in here called a composite roll cover. What this allows you to do is it's basically a wall, and you can open the door and it will hide any cabling, any pipes, any circuits that you need to be able to get to, but you don't want to put a wall over. So for example, you could place it here and you could close the door so it would hide your IC, it would hide that sensor, but they would still function and you can get to them as and when you need to. Now, there is a slight niggly thing with these doors that actually really annoys me, but I'll quickly show you. You cannot place a composite roll cover door on a wall, which really just seems a little bit daft, to be honest. Now, the composite roll cover is airtight, so in theory, that acts as a wall, but I feel like you should be able to place something behind it. I don't know why they've made this decision. It's probably just an oversight. But what I'm going to do because I want to, is I'm going to install a very quick mod. So give me 2 seconds. With that mod installed, I can now place my door on the wall, which just feels like something I should be able to do anyway. But there we go. Now, if you are not a fan of modding, if you haven't modded your game, you don't know how to do it, I've got a video on the channel if you want to. But by all means, this is obviously optional. You don't have to do this. Without the mod, you can place a frame behind it. So if you were having like a box made of frame, then you wouldn't have the issue. But for me, I like the fact that I can now put that there, and on the outside of my base, my wall is still there. So it just looks complete. It just looks finished. But yeah, this is completely optional. You don't have to do this. If you want to know what mod that is, it is the roll cover fix mod. So if you remember before, I mentioned that we could do our grow light automation with the circuits or the IC. You do whatever you want. I've gone through how to do that. Me personally, I do not want to use the circuits. I feel like it's just extra complexity, and my automation on my IC is doing the job perfectly well. So I'm going to take down these circuits. But again, you don't have to do this. This is just a personal preference. Also, because we're talking about staying tidy, I'm going to also place my grow light up here. So I should be able to place it there and it still reach these potatoes. And we can just connect this grow light to our cable over here. There we go. It's come on automatically because our code is constantly writing. So just relocating your grow lights does mean that they will just work, assuming you've written the code or you've set up your chips as I did. All we'll have to do is, because of where I placed that, I'm not exactly sure if we're going to reach all of these. So when nighttime comes, we'll turn off the code, we'll quickly test the grow light and ensure that it still works. So last but not least, I'm going to place some more hydroponic trays down because I want to get a feel for how my greenhouse is going to look. So I'm going to go and print out loads more trays and loads more pipes, liquid pipes. While I'm printing the trays, I'm also going to go into my printer and I'm going to print out a battery charger. I'm just going to go for the small one because realistically we're not going to need any more than that. I'm also going to take a spare small battery and a spare large battery. I'm going to make sure I've got plenty of pipes. I'm going to print the non-insulated ones because I know they're going to be on a frame in the greenhouse. However, make insulated if you want to and you've got the materials for it. I'm also going to print some floor gratings and head back over to the greenhouse. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place my trays down in how I want them. Again, you do whatever you want. I'm just going to kind of mix things up a little bit here. One thing I'll say is on easy difficulty, you don't need a shed ton of crops. You don't need crap loads of food. You're not going to get through that much. But if you want to just get to a point where you're growing a bit of everything, then just grow a little bit of everything. It's fine. So I'm going to do mine in 2x2s. Normally I do 3x3s, but as I've started to learn on the game, you don't need that much food. Once you've got a bit of everything, you're absolutely fine. I'm going to just connect all my trays to water. And as you can see here, I've kind of got no, well, I'm using different pipes. It doesn't matter. I've got insulated pipes. I've got non-insulated pipes. I mean, those with OCD are probably like pulling them out a little bit, but it doesn't matter. They'll all function the same. Because I am on frames, these can be non-insulated because they don't have Mars atmosphere on the underside. Whereas on the walls, I'm using insulated. This one here is because I'm being lazy. And you know what? I ain't going to change it because I don't have to. But now if we have a look at our trays, we can see that we've got water available in the entire network. And if we very quickly check, so you can see now the grow light is off, right? These are in darkness, which is absolutely fine. If I turn my code off for a second, turn my light on, they are now not in darkness. So I know that that light is reaching those potato plants, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another grow light over here so that I can reach these plots. So head back over to your workshop, go to your electronics printer, and print out some grow lights. I don't know how many I need, so I'm just going to get my steel electrum and I'm just going to print out about 3 of them. Head back to your greenhouse. So this grow light may not reach this corner plot here. So just because I can, I'm going to put another grow light here. We'll do it there. And then for these grow plots over here, I probably need to move that nitrogen pipe. So let's very quickly do that. And I'm going to get my grow lights. I'm going to place one about there-ish. And screw it. Let's place the other one here. This is completely overkill. I'm not being efficient here at all. Realistically, I'm pretty sure, and people have told me this has changed, but I have yet to see it. The grow light will provide light to plots that are 3 plots away, well, 3 small grids away. So, for example, this grow light will provide light here, here, and here, and down. I think it's about 4, maybe. And then 1, 2, 3 in this direction. I have some overlap here. However, I'm doing it on purpose because I want to create an issue later in the playthrough that we're going to have to fix. So for now, I'm just going to get this wired up. But all you need to do is make sure that your grow lights are giving you sufficient coverage on your plants. And like I said, the way to test that would be to plant your plants, turn off your code, turn on a grow light and see if it's getting light. If it is, then you know you've covered it. Again, I am not being very power efficient here at all, but I'm doing it on purpose. And remember, the magic here is that that code is operating all those grow lights without me having to do anything. And we can test that by trying to turn it on and it immediately turns off. Same with this one, immediately turns off. And what we can do is, because we have a greenhouse that is functional, it's cool enough, we've got water, we've got light, grab your wheat seeds, just plant one. Your wheat has pretty much the same requirements as a potato. If you want to double check that, you can search for wheat and you can have a look at its stats in here. But pretty much everything is very similar to potato. I think the darkness is slightly higher, but you're always going to match this with the code that we've done. So you're going to be fine. So plant your wheat, and then the same as we did again. Let the wheat grow, replant the wheat, keep the seed, and yeah, rinse and repeat. We also in here have a little bit of nitrogen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a soybean, and I'm going to plant my soybean as well. I'm only planting one, because soybeans, if you search in the Stationpedia, require, it's a bit hard to see, but they require carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Now we have nitrogen in the greenhouse, so that is going to be thriving. However, we need to make sure we have a stockpile of nitrogen. Now, if you remember, we do have this network here. So next time we're going to set up a system that's going to bring nitrogen into the greenhouse, but we're also going to do some oxygen collection, because what's going to happen is we're going to start going through the CO2 a lot quicker. We're going to start producing more oxygen, and we're going to end up with an imbalance in ratio. So we'll cover that next time. All I want to do today to finish this off is just place some floor gratings down, just to make this feel a little bit more finished. Again, completely optional step, but it's nice to see your rooms progressing as you move on in the game. So if we just finish this off, there we go. Ignore that one and that one, I miscounted. But now we've got a greenhouse which is really starting to take shape. We can't see our pipes unless we really look down at them. We've got multiple different crop types planted now. We've got access to water. We've got a drinking fountain. We've got additional grow lights in here. We've got a portable scrubber that we do need to turn on and off as and when we need to. We also have a microwave, which I can show you. So we now have, potatoes. So I'm going to just harvest these. Grab the potatoes. Replant the seeds. And now I have potato. So I put the potato in, a single potato, close the lid, press the button. We are now making a baked potato. There we go. You have your first baked potato. Now, I'm not going to eat this, and we'll cover those in more detail next time. And I'm also going to just chuck these potatoes on the floor. Again, not great, but we'll cover that next time. So this was part one of just the polishing the greenhouse. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. It's a little bit of a hit and miss episode, but we're going to have this greenhouse pretty much ready by the end of the next video, and then we'll move on to other projects around the base. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. And until next time, take it easy. Bye.